Alright guys, and welcome. This is Leslie from El Penguin, and today I'm going to show you how to create this polar gradient effect using vector illustration. I created this, did two options, and I'm going to explain how I did this. So this is my option one. Basically got pretty close to this image, this reference image that I got, and let me break it down for you how I did it. So I'm going to show you version 2. So one of the first things I'm going to do is just going to build this from scratch so you guys can take a look at how I was able to build this. So let me move this out of the way so you guys can see this. Now I work with a nice square size, 720 by 720 I think is the size that I use. So 792 by 792 is the size that I use. So one of the things is I'm just going to apply a gradient. I'm going to grab my gradient tool just from the top to bottom. And if you notice here on your gradient panel, if you don't know how to get there, you go into Windows and Gradients. Anything with your panels here, you can always find it under the window. And I want to make sure that I swap my reverse gradient. I want to make sure that everything stays default. So if you notice, the black is on my location of 100 and my white is 0. There's this little triangle. If you select it, is how your two colors are blending together. I'm going to put this to 50%. Now it gives me this nice gradation. And one of the things that I can do is I can always play around with this. I can bring this up just to start giving some darker color. And I can just move this to kind of blend it a little bit further up wherever I need it. Right? So let's say, for example, that's where I want it. So that's the first thing I do. I'll do a gradient. I'm going to copy or duplicate this box, and I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Front. And I want to make it a quarter size of my whole box here. And a quick way to do that is, if you notice, when you select your box, go on the top here on the shape size, so you can even go here into your width and the height on the property, or right here on the top, and I can put here 792 divided by 2, and automatically will cut that in half. And I do the same thing for the width and the height, divided by 2, and there you have it. Then I want to align this to the top and to the right. Now the first thing I want to do is I want this color to be white, okay, and I want to make this nice white color. Okay, that's one of the ways that I can do this. I can use this white, but if you notice, I created a gradient as well to do that, and it's very simple. So I create the gradient, I'm going to apply that gradient, and what I'm going to do is just going to grab my gradient tool and just kind of play around and kind of post it in an angle that I think is going to work the best for me. I think that kind of works well. Alright, so that's another step. I'm going to duplicate this box. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Front. I want to make it black. And I want to change my height to about 5 pixels. And I want to make sure that it aligns right to the vertical alignment center. Now take a look at this. If I select this box here, what I can do here, if you go into transparency, if you don't find this box, you can always go to Window, Transparency. And one of the things I'm going to do is, what I did to this box is basically I'm going to hide the black. And the way to do that is you create a blend mode, kind of like Photoshop, and you change this to screen, and allows you to blend that color. The cool thing about this is that you can always come back over here, grab your gradient tool, and basically place it wherever you think is going to work the best for you. You can just click and drag. It's going to give you that illumination look that you're looking for. You can always move this around left and right and control where you want these lines to be emitting. within your light effects how much blend you want this to be affected. You can always move this to the left, and you're going to see here that you start getting this nice little blend of light. That starts to look pretty cool. I know it has a very more consistent lighting over here in this right side, but just so you guys gotta kind of play around with this and make sure that it works for you. And I can always move this around, and I can always rotate my gradient. And you notice that once I start rotating this, you start seeing a little bit different within your gradation. Remember, the way it works is dark is gonna hide it, almost like a transparency. White is gonna show. So this is kind of like a way of creating that, and you just got to continue tweaking this until you get the right look that you're looking for, and changing the different angles. Alright, so this is going to be one of the ways that I will create the top part. Now for the bottom is basically the same. I just need to tweak the bottom part, and you're going to see here I changed the blend to a multiply. So I'm going to copy this guy. Quick way to do it, if you hold your Alt key or your Option key on a Mac, you can click and drag to the bottom. And I'm just going to make sure that I align it to the bottom and to the right. And I'm going to swap my colors. And I want to grab my gradient tool, and I want to come from the top right corner. Let me swap this again, I'm sorry. And like I said, I'm going to grab this, and if I put this to multiply, now it's going to hide everything that is white, or anything that is light, and then it's going to show the black. But what's happening here, my gradient in the background, I don't have enough contrast so I can show some of this light emitting similar to this image. So I just got to make sure that I bring this down just a little bit, and I can always drag this down. So start introducing some lighting coming right through that, and there you have, you can see that starts taking shape. And let me rotate that just a little bit, and I can grab my gradient. I have answered a question about how to create this using the blend tool. I was running into some issues with the blend tool, and then I started playing around with my gradients, and it felt that it worked out a lot better if I go this route. So this is the first option, kind of like the first try that I would try this, and how to create this polar gradient. Second option, basically, it gives me a little bit wiggle of playroom, basically. So the way that I did this is, just gonna show you here. I'm gonna duplicate or copy the same elements that I have from my previous one. Remember, holding the Alt key, I'm just gonna click and drag to the right. Alright, so I have that. So the main one and the black one stays the same. This guy right here this is the key. So I want to make this white. I want to make sure that my blend mode is normal. Now, if you never used the mesh tool is a pretty awesome tool is one of my favorite tools in Illustrator. But if you're not familiar with it, I will create a tutorial later on how to use the mesh tool. But very simple. I like to work with simple lines and have control over my lines and how my mesh is structured. So what I like to do, I like to select my object solid white, make sure that there's no blend mode. I'm going to go to Object, Create Gradient Mesh. And for this, I want to create one row, 2 columns. Normally I do like 2 rows when I start working in more detailed elements, but I like to have control over how my alignment of my grid is placed on my object. So I'm going to do 1 row, 2 columns. Okay, and just to give you an idea, once it turns this into a mesh, the cool thing about it is I can grab my direct selection tool, and what happens is each individual point, basically you can apply a custom color. Okay, and that's the cool thing about it. The cool thing about it as well also is that you can control their own opacity, and you can always do a little more customization to each individual point. So what I'm going to do is kind of create this kind of look over here. You can do the same thing to the bottom if you want to go through this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in to the white, make sure I select it, and I'm going to grab my mesh tool. And I'm going to create a mesh right in the middle here. And that starts to look pretty good. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is from the top, I'm going to grab all those top anchors. I'm just holding my shift key. I want to make sure my opacity is set to 0. And also, this is an individual anchor as well. I want to set that one to 0 as well. You're going to notice that now I get this nice little blend of my lighting. And one of the cool things that I can do now is basically to get that pinch effect that I have going on here. Take a look at here. This is where the key part is. You're going to take a look at it. You got to be zoomed in. Once you select each individual anchor, you have these little handles here. Basically, those handles telling me how much I want to blend this anchor with this anchor color. If you notice, let me lock this guy, Control Command 2 on the Mac to lock an object. So I'm going to select this guy to make sure I don't select anything underneath, and I can grab that handle, and basically I can tell it how much of that white I want to see and how far I want it to see. It's going to create that pinch of that section, and I can just drag these little handles here. They're independent from each other, and that's the cool part about it. And if you notice now you got this nice little tone of light coming through that section. And what I can do here is basically I can grab this anchor right here. I'm going to lift it up. Once I click and drag, I'm going to hold my shift key. I'm going to set that opacity to 50% just to start getting a little bit better blend. And you notice how your light starts kind of transforming in those specific angles. And it's up to you how far you want to take this. Look, if I can just move this over, and they don't forget about their individual handles. I can always move this and create specific lighting and where my light is going to be. So basically that's kind of the way that I create this type of polar gradient. And just one last thing I just want to show you, if you ever want to change the color of your polar gradient, I will copy the background, paste it in the front, and I can just change, let's say for a red color, I can just use my multiply, and you can change the color gradation really quickly, or your lighting effect within your scene. Or you can do that independently with just, let's say for example, if you have a pink light within your scene or whatever might be the case, something into this, and it's going to be affecting this area. I don't know, something into that. You just got to play around, do some masking or whatever might be the case. So I hope this tutorial was helpful to you guys. Very quick. I just kind of show you how to do a polar gradient. If you want to see more of this tutorial, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, guys. This helps me to create more of this content. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy and you learned something. Have a great day.